Welcome to the channel. It's time for my weekly wrap where I tell you all about the latest motorsport news that I found interesting over the last week and that I hope you will find interesting too. Please pop in the comments below what you think about the things that I'm going to bring up. Now, it is still Crimbo Limbo, isn't it? It's that time with Christmas, New Year, etc., where nobody quite knows what day it is and everybody is still feeling full of turkey and, of course, celebrations. Apart from the bounties, because they are rubbish. But I have found some news, so we do have something to talk about, so it is all good. So it's time for the weekend roundup. Let's get into it. Right, so the first news story I found here is on racefans.net. It's definitely worth a read, so do go over there and have a proper read yourself. And because I'm not going to just read it to you, obviously, because that would be boring. However, I find it really interesting because it's an interview with Pat Symonds, and he has worked for many teams, but he also worked for Formula One management back when they designed the 22 regulations with the ground effect era. And he has said that, so first of all, 2026 engine rules are too much of a compromise, and that basically the FIA muscled in and took back control of all of the F1 regulations and wanted things done their way so that they could appease the teams and keep the teams on side. Whereas with the 22 regulations, a lot of it was done in conjunction with Formula One management, who obviously wanted cars that had were better for the spectacle, so better for racing, and they spent a lot of money developing those regulations alongside the FIA at the time to try and make them better for the product, better for Formula One, better for the viewers, better for the drivers, all those sort of things. And they employed really good technical consultants like, obviously Ross Brawn was there, and Pat Symonds, who really understood the project. And at the start of the 2022 season, with these brand new ground effect cars, they were closer, they were better to race. Some teams that completely dropped the ball, there was obviously porpoising. But then the FIA, it seems, have taken control and pushed the F1 side of it out, and they want to do things their way, which I think is a little bit of a shame, because Formula One management really did know what they were doing and really did bring in some absolutely fantastic names. So are these 2026 regulations a bit too much of a compromise? Have they thrown a lot away? Have they messed up with these power units? And a lot of people think they have messed up with the power units. Of course, they're simpler, they're going to be lighter, they are 50% sustainable fuel internal combustion engine and now 50% power from the battery. That's going to make a big difference to the racing as well, because people are going to be regenerating and trying to get power back into the battery as best they can. So there's definitely something to look for here. It's going to be interesting how the season develops, but have the FIA just been trying to appease manufacturers to try and get Audi on side, try and get Ford in? I mean, it's worked, but is it going to improve the spectacle? Are we going to see horrendous crashes where people's engines stop working down the straights and stuff? Are we going to see the D-rating where people can't go all the way down the straights? All the scaremongering things we've heard. So let's see how it progresses. But a really interesting article nonetheless. Also on here is stats. I'm a bit of a geek, so I love stats and facts, and there's all sorts of stats on here. Again, I'm not going to read it to you, but it's very interesting in terms of stats. I just love quirks in the regulations like that, but there's loads of stats in there, so do go over to racefans.net and have a look. Now, in the New Year's honours list, if you're not from the UK, in the UK we have an honours list, so some people are knighted, some people are given awards, and basically you get letters after your name, but you get to go and see the king or a member of the royal family, and you will be awarded your medal or whatever, but it just means you're given a status, if you like. And interesting to motorsport, interestingly that Norris didn't even get a CBE or anything, which surprised me. But the CEO of Silverstone, Stuart Pringle, has been given an OBE, which is Order of the British Empire, which is a really good award and very well deserved, because he's taken Silverstone from a really struggling business into a motorsport empire almost, because they've opened up the business park, they host loads of events there now. There is stuff going on all of the time. You've got the Hilton on the pit straight, you've got Escapade, which is a great restaurant, by the way. So there is loads going on. There's stuff happening all the time, and they've turned it into a really viable business model, because Formula One can come in and takes a lot of money out of it. You know, you don't make money hosting a Formula One race at your track. That's why a lot of these races are held in nation states who are paying for it with money from oil or whatever, or to pay to get tourists in, whereas in the UK, Silverstone gets no government money and no government help at all. So he has turned that into a viable business opportunity, and he's done an exceptional job at making Silverstone one of the best races on the calendar to attend, with the concerts and everything. The atmosphere is one of the best. So absolutely well deserved. Next up, there is a new red flag rule. Basically, they just tightened up the wording in the regulations, and this is going back to the Imola Grand Prix last year, where there was a big delay between, I think it was Q3 and Q2, because Ollie Bearman crossed the line, but it was like 3 seconds or something after the red flag was brought out. But at that point, there was no red flags on display, the red lights weren't on, there was nothing in that short space of time. There was nothing for Ollie Bearman to have seen that it was still a red flag. And Haas was like on the phone to the FIA saying, hold on a minute, this lap should stand, because we weren't told, we weren't notified. There was no point in which we or anybody would have known there was a red flag at that time. So the lap should still stand. Surely it's when we see it, when we're notified. But it's down to when it is on the timing screen rather than when the boards and the flags, etc., go out, because there is always a little bit of a delay between people reacting and pressing certain buttons and that decision being made. So it's just tightened up the regulations a little bit, just with the wording, to make sure that it is bound by the time on the timing screen that is with the official timekeepers. So just a little tighten up of the regulations. In the roundup, they've also got here that the FIA increases the deposit fee for F1 appeals tenfold to 20 grand. So if you're going to appeal a decision by the stewards, it's now going to cost you £20,000. And this is to deter people for just frivolously trying to appeal things, to try and see if something can stick, or to try and put one on an opponent. 20 grand's a lot of money. So I think that's exactly why they've done that. There's a big piece in Autosport here about why Ford are contributing a lot more to Red Bull's engines than was originally planned. A good read here, very, very interesting, because originally the Ford deal was pretty much a badging deal. They were slightly involved, but not massively. But now it looks like Ford have thrown a lot more into it and will be a lot more involved in the Red Bull powertrains. Next up, Vettel reveals the advice he gave to Hamilton for the Ferrari switch. Now, this is a big one, because obviously that hasn't gone to plan for Lewis, certainly for the first year. And it's the first year. The car was difficult to drive. The regulations didn't suit Lewis. The Ferrari changed the car completely when previously, in the previous year, they'd had a car that was obviously pretty bloody good, because it was fighting for the championship in the last race of the season, the constructors that is, but they decided to abandon what they'd learned and change it for something else. So I think there was a lot of teething pain and troubles in 2025, so hopefully we'll see the real Lewis Hamilton back in 2026. But Vettel reveals and has had an interview, and he said about the things that he thought were absolutely key for Lewis to be a success, and those include learning Italian, which was a very big thing, and I don't think Lewis has actually done that. So there you go. That is an interesting column to read also. And then lastly, it is of course Dakar rally time. There's always motorsport on TV, so you can watch the Dakar rally championship, and it is great. It's obviously entertaining. I quite enjoy it. I love watching these cars, and some of the drivers are absolute geniuses. So Toyota are there. They've got a couple of teams: Dacia, Ford, Carlos Sainz Jr. Carlos Sainz Senior. So Carlos Sainz in F1's dad. Absolute incredible rally champion. Dacia have got Sebastian Loeb. Ford have got Matthias Ekstrom. And loads of honourable mentions in there. So definitely have a look at the runners and riders, because that is always a fascinating championship to watch. Anyway, that's my roundup for the week. There'll be loads more next week as we really get into the new year. Happy New Year. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Please do like, subscribe, and drop me a comment below on any of the news stories we've featured today. Thank you very much.